Now, let us welcome back our mayor for the keynote speech. Do you want me to read your bio? You don't want me to? Okay.
Now, thank you for that introduction. The only thing I would change from the bio is that I was RA, not US. So, good morning. And welcome to Vallejo, especially to the Gold Star mothers, the Blue Star mothers, the family and friends of veterans, and especially you, the supporters of our veterans. We are honored by your presence, and we are touched by your devotion to demonstrating this. Welcome to this hallowed location. It is fitting that 80 years after D-Day, we are gathered here to pay honor and respect to not only those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, but especially to those who are members of the veterans community and know what that sacrifice entails. My special thanks to the organizers of this event, the American Legion Post number 550. It is the American Legion in the United States that is the largest organization of veterans in this country. Anyone who has served during a time of war, no matter whether they were active duty, whether they were reserve, whether they were combat or non-combat in support, can join this organization, and that is one of the reasons why it is so successful and indeed so large. It was created in 1919 after the war to end all wars, and yet here we are again today, and you have to ask sometimes why. There are many veterans organizations in the United States. I am a member of the VFW, which is of course the oldest veterans organization in the United States. It is both interesting to note and learn from the reality that at one time, the VFW denied membership to Vietnam veterans on the claim that it was not a real war. It was a police action. The same thing occurred with Korean vets. The lesson to be learned from this is that we all need to participate and practice, that no matter what activity has produced a veteran, that individual should be honored and embraced by all of us and welcomed home. To do less is to disrespect and to dishonor the very tradition of service and teamwork that veterans stand for. Indeed, we must always endeavor to support those who have risked all for the defense of the many. Throughout the United States, each state has veterans. The largest is New Jersey, and interestingly enough, the smallest is New York State. I want to particularly acknowledge, however, the fact that indigenous Americans have fought in every war in the United States history. Indigenous veterans have served in the United States Armed Forces in larger proportion to any population in this entire country's population. I can personally attest to their respect for veterans because upon my returning from an unpopular war, while attending a powwow outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, when the Native Americans learned I had been a warrior, they insisted that I participate in the warrior dance. They literally dragged me out onto the field. And it was actually the very first time I ever felt welcomed home in this country. And to them, I owe my respects and my honor and my great appreciation. It was our very first Commander-in-Chief, George Washington, who said that, "I think it would be a requirement, truth be told, that I believe that any citizen of a free nation who relies upon that free nation for his defense, he owes not only a portion of his property to that nation, but also his service." For those of you who have worn the cloth of our nation, we owe you our thanks, our respect. We owe you every freedom that we exercise in this country. It is your example of courage that you continue to set after your service in uniform is ended. You're the very example of how you live your life as a citizen. And that example and that activity motivates countless others that we do not even know about. But you do set the example of what it means to serve and to honor and to have dignity. It is fitting that Veterans Day often follows a hard-fought and sometimes divisive political campaign. It is that campaign that illustrates the true basics of free speech and self-government that we have fought for and helped to establish. The spirit of America has never been to be isolationist in separate corners. Instead, it is defined in strength in our creed, to forge unity from this great diversity that we voice to sustain that strength and unity. We can and we should do no less. Even though it is hard when the election is over, we will come together to reconnect with one another and the principles that are more than political philosophies. It is veterans who learned that when assigned a mission, we have to unite as a team, all looking out for one another, all having one another's backs. We represent the very diversity of this great country, no matter our background or ethnicity or religion or philosophy. We come together in a common mission to help and assist this great country. After we leave the service, we set aside our uniforms and become involved with businesses, politics, education, sports, religious activities, first responders, even council members. It's because we are members of the community. We serve this country that we love with the same sense, honor, duty, and courage that we learned to practice in the military. We do and should serve as an example of those who become cynical in our country, and Lord knows that is widespread today. And it is that process that whenever you seek humility and true selflessness, look to the example of a veteran, knowing that it is essential that we must continue to keep that sacred trust of honor, knowing that this task is never done. On Veterans Day, the nation acknowledges that veterans can never be quite served in the same way that they have served, but we try as a nation. We can practice kindness, we can pay it forward, we can volunteer, we can serve, we can respect one another. Veterans especially need to have their fellow veterans' backs. And you heard an example earlier about how communicating and writing and being involved with people who are still on active duty is so meaningful to those people. While I was in Vietnam, my brother-in-law, who raises Christmas trees, sent me a little tabletop 3-inch tall Christmas tree. When it was unwrapped, the guys in our unit were very touched to have that smell of a Christmas tree. And when the Vietnamese saw it, they had never seen a Christmas tree before. They had no idea what it was, but they were enamored with it. So that is the way we can reach out. They used to send cookies every month from my home county to us. We received rum balls, which after being in the heat of the Vietnam, were quite noticeable when you open the can. But that is how you touch and reach out to people. Woodrow Wilson said, "The nation's needs are such that when we must place men and women in harm's way, we remember our past, that never before have men and women crossed the seas to foreign lands to fight for a cause which they did not pretend was particularly their own, but knew that the cause of humanity and of mankind was of more importance. Perhaps it is that very concept of respecting humanity and mankind that is a true justification and motivation for many to serve, though their lives may be at stake." As George Washington W. Bush said, "Thank you for bravely doing what you're called to do so that we can safely do what we are free to do." Throughout the course of America and history, courageous men and women have taken up arms to secure, defend, and maintain those corporate principles upon which our nation's freedom depends. It is a solemn burden. We should always bear in mind that it is not the specific battle that this country fights, but rather justifications in terms of freedom and human rights that battle permits to exist. When America is targeted or attacked, it is because we are the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world. It is the evildoers who do not desire to have that freedom and opportunity in their own world. We are very thankful to men and women such as yourselves who are willing to bear that burden when called upon to do so. We all pray for the day when we will not, as a reality, see war. But yes, you can see from the plaque behind the monument at City Hall, there are additional plaques with names yet to be added. And we all pray that that day will never come. We hope and we need to work that it will not again arrive. America is great because it's people like you who put the nation's interest above self-interest, who place patriotism above profit, who put our country's love above love of self. America is fortunate to have men and women such as yourselves who are willing to forego wearing business suits, strolling down easy street, and foregoing the living of the good life on an immediate basis in order to sacrifice for the greater cause to wear the cloth of the nation, to travel along an uncertain road with peril, to live the life on the cutting edge of danger, to live the life that matters. Ronald Reagan said that when life gets tough and the crisis is undeniably at hand, we will find nothing inside of ourselves we have not yet already put there. Character is created over a process of life that begins in our homes, continues in our training, and is fully realized in our daily service. We do not leave that behind when we take off the uniform of our nation. Instead, it is calling to practice it every day in our lives. Life calls upon you, each of you, to be leaders, to volunteer inside and outside of your immediate community, to be a role model for all of our citizens. It is this fighting spirit that the background of our nation takes, and that spirit is within you that keeps the scale of freedom tipping in favor of America and the ideals that it does stand for. In this time of political discourse, I would like to tell you a story about an individual, Alfred Rascon, from Chihuahua, Mexico. As a non-citizen, he found himself in Vietnam, where under fire he covered a grenade, saving the lives of two of his teammates. His actions demonstrated the very best qualities of American servicemen. He did recover from his injuries, and later he became an American citizen, going on to receive the Medal of Honor. Had his platoon members not supported that effort, he most likely would have been either forgotten or deported. Courage, according to Germaine Greer, is defined as being fragile and must be protected. To sacrifice it, even as a temporary measure, is to betray it. Our own local California resident for a time, Mark Twain, commented that courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Wilson Mandela, who founded a now independent and democratic society, said, "It is so easy to break down and destroy the heroes for those who make peace and build." Going forward, the takeaway of all these words and these messages of inspiration is that as veterans, we have been charged by our service. We have been changed by our service, mostly for the good. However, a true goodness that veterans can bestow is to be that very example of dedication to service and improvement in our own local community. For those of you who are doing that, I say, on behalf of a grateful city, thank you. Today is a day of joy. It is when we celebrate those who are amongst the living. When Colonel Aliga asked me to deliver this speech on Veterans Day, I first said, thank you. And then I started thinking about what I would have to do to create the speech. So I found this little corny joke to honor him. It seems as though at our local base, there was a recent tragedy preparing for a children's event. Jelly Belly had donated a lot of popcorn that was stored on the tarmac near where the planes land. Unfortunately, some wind blew the popcorn out onto the runway. An incoming plane ran over the popcorn. But fortunately, only 2 kernels were destroyed. So going forward, that will be the Colonel Hooligan joke. It has indeed been my pleasure today to honor and to share with you a recognition of the tremendous contributions of veterans to our great country and to our very city. I'm humbled by your efforts, yet I am proud to be one of you. So let's go out and enjoy this day. Thank you.
And Robert, we want to thank you for your service as mayor. You've been wonderful. Thank you.